Good evening, girls and gals, freaks and creeps. This is the Arizona podcast, where we'll be talking about everything from the strange, the occult, hauntings, possessions, demons, murder mysteries, true crimes, and everything in between. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Jerome Grand Hotel. So, we're going to give it to our local historian. Pauline, go ahead and take it away.
All right, y'all. So, the United Verde Hospital was built in 1926 and later became the Jerome Grand Hotel. The hotel was built in 1996. It was the fourth and final hospital in the town. It was owned by the United Verde Copper Company, which later became the Phelps Dodge Mining Corporation. The hospital was also known as the Phelps Dodge Hospital. It was a real state-of-the-art facility, very modern and well equipped.
So, what exactly made it all well equipped? I mean, just out of curiosity, if it was, so sophisticated for its time.
Yeah, like nowadays they don't have what we have nowadays. They had patient call lights, they had balconies, sun porches, emergency backup lighting, they had the Otis self-service elevator, ice making room in Arizona, the laboratories, x-ray, major and minor surgical facilities, men's and women's children's ward, and then private and semi-private rooms, and then blanket warming closets and housing for some of the staff, which only like 3 of those things we have nowadays, but the rest, I don't think we have any of that.
Especially for this, you said it was in the 20s?
And yeah, in the 1926. So that's pretty good for that era for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely way ahead of its time, way ahead of the game.
So definitely was a real state-of-the-art medical facility. The 1926 Otis elevator still works to this day. The 30,000 square foot building had no wood inside the structure. It was 100% fire and earthquake proof. It also needed to withstand the power of nature and 260,000 pounds of dynamite. The hospital was closed in 1950, becoming the mining started to shut down. At one time, 15,000 miners and their families lived in Jerome, but when the mine finally closed in 1953, only 100 people stayed. That's not very much.
That's like half the population of the town?
Exactly.
Well, not even half. Let's just say 80 to 90% of the population.
How many parking spots did they have?
Clearly, they got enough.
Seriously. But in that case, when it closed, medical services were still available in the surrounding communities near Jerome. The hospital stayed empty for the next 44 years until Larry Arthur bought it and turned it into the Grand Hotel in 1996. So in that case, I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to my friend Eric to take over the paranormal aspect of this podcast.
Okay, so while the hospital was in operations, there were many deaths. Most deaths were mining accidents, but people also died from injuries and illnesses. According to some reports, there have been as many as 9,000 deaths at the hospital. Without official records being found, it is hard to yet to be verified.
So a lot of the records are missing?
Yes. The reports of the 9,000 deaths are more word of mouth.
That's interesting. You figure the hospital would have somehow be able to keep most of them.
Somehow.
I mean, unless they were lost in the fire.
Ooh, that could be true.
In the beginning, the Jerome Grand Hotel only had 6 rooms available. But claims of strange happenings started almost immediately after the hotel opened. Many paranormal complaints come from the 3rd floor, by far the most active floor in the hotel. Guests have heard voices from empty rooms, reports of what sounds like a gurney going down the hallway, but no one was there. Let's see. A bearded man claims the third floor as his domain. His identity is unknown, but many claim he is a minor. He makes his presence known by coughing and heavy breathing. Frequent sounds of baby crying and the smell of baby powder are often experienced on the third and fourth floor.
Ooh, I love the smell of baby powder in the morning.
Possible maternity wards?
Yeah, that's what I was
Possibly.
thinking.
Guests and staff have heard and seen a 4-year-old or 5-year-old little boy running down the hallway. Sometimes he giggles, sometimes he cries. But what he really likes to do is stand at the foot of the beds and stare at people while they sleep.
Yeah, no, my guy.
That would definitely be disturbing if you were to
Wake
up in the middle of the night and see a child at the foot of your bed.
Yeah, let's just say this. Pants officially shitted right now.
I knew I brought a pair for a reason.
Yep. I came prepared with spares.
The most active ghost is that of a spirit cat of unknown origin. It meows, hisses, and scratches at doors and walls. Guests and staff have felt a cat brush against their legs, but when they look down, there's no cat there. A guest was lucky enough to get a clear picture of the cat. It can be seen at the front desk. There have been sightings of apparitions. Of such apparitions are 2 ladies, one having a white dress and the other a nurse's uniform. Another ghost has been seen in a lab coat. Most presume that it is a doctor. He's carrying a clipboard, and he has been known to be seen leaving rooms as if he was visiting patients.
Possible residual haunting?
Possibly. There would have to be a reason why the doctor is still there.
I can narrow it down to 2 things. Either he liked his job enough. You know, they say once you develop close ties with somebody, I mean, residual hauntings don't necessarily have to be traumatic experiences for properties or landmarks. It could be the residual connection could be that of like the bond you build with somebody and then they're no longer there. It brings an emotional scar. So I mean,
PTSD, in other words, you know.
It's emotional PTSD, but it leaves the person's spirit almost in like a state of shock.
A negative energy.
Well, it could be that he just loved his job so much.
A patient too, super close with them.
Or maybe even a patient that he was taking care of died suddenly and
he's tore up about it.
And is connected, and it's keeping him at the hotel doing his job.
The want to save that person and he couldn't. Yeah, that's the crazy thing about residual hauntings, like, or even just residual spirit energy. There's really no one way to be like, you know, it's here because of something keeping it, or if it's reliving it, does it still feel like he has a purpose type thing.
Is he able to move on?
It's with spirits like that, they don't really know. That's what makes it really interesting about residual hauntings, because it's not like something that's like a demonic infestation or things to do more with like poltergeist.
Exactly, that's why he's not able to move on. So it's
same
lingering.
could be said for the lady in the gown and the nurse. Something could be holding them there to the hospital. Maybe the woman in the gown passed away there, so her spirit is trapped inside. Could be a tragic death, a sudden death.
She could be looking for a child. I mean, you said they did see child spirits, you know.
True.
Around that time, that's in the early
30s.
So tuberculosis, I mean, it got Doc Holliday.
Oh.
And around that time, there is no medications, no antibiotics, or
and it's
vaccines.
worse in children.
Yeah, low immune system.
And
not much to go off of because you're
or
still
she
young.
could be maybe someone. The lady in the white gown could be someone who died during childbirth.
Yeah.
Being since she's in the nightgown would be more of
Resemblance of a mother.
than a patient. Patients would be in
The hospital gown.
hospital gowns.
That could be it.
And other paranormal experiences that people have had are sounds, smells, light anomalies, and electrical devices turning on and off by themselves and being unplugged constantly.
So that sounds like poltergeist.
Yes,
Ooh.
mischievous behavior. People have said that sometimes bottles of shampoo roll across the floor or fly across the room.
Wait, it's able to throw them?
That is manifestation at its finest.
That's a high
Level of energy.
Yeah, because
to be
even
able
just to
to-
do EVPs, they say for us to hear whispers, they're screaming and yelling at the top of their lungs. It takes, I think they said, 500 times more the energy to get out even whispers for us to hear. But in the spirit world, they're like screaming through megaphones to make
just
their
to
presence
make
felt.
the contact.
So that's Man, that's
people
crazy.
have lost cell phones and camcorders, and then later they're found underneath beds.
Ooh.
well, damn.
So, how did that happen? If most people don't stick their electrical devices under the beds,
yeah, knowing how
and
most
especially
people are
if you're
today.
there visiting on vacation, even if you're there to investigate, you would keep your equipment in
Close.
in a
Always
bag.
nearby, and
So-
especially somewhere near an outlet to keep everything juiced.
So, how how does it disappear? And then most likely they look for it, and then it's under the bed.
Mm-hmm. Creepy.
And it doesn't make sense, and especially because most cameras are fitted to tripods, so you can have all your mounted gear on it.
So, due to the fact that there's so much paranormal activity on such a high level, the hotel draws lots of locals, tourists, and amateur ghost hunters. And with that, I'm gonna hand it over to Seb, and he's going to give you the murder mystery part of the hotel.
All right, gents, let's get right into this. So, there was a Mr. Claude Harvey. He was the hospital maintenance worker. Now, this is where things kind of take an interesting little plot twist. So, he was discovered by the Otis elevator on April 3rd, 1935, where his head was overhanging the end of the elevator shaft, and the elevator pinned him by the back of the neck. So, there are two conflicting reports here. One, that there was no autopsy performed. The second is that there was one. Now, the part of the story that's going to take, the little interesting part of it. Supposedly, the mining company did not want them to do an autopsy looking into Mr. Harvey's passing. Now, the other story that says the autopsy that was performed, Mr. Harvey was already dead after he was pinned under the elevator. There's no specific time frame on how long he was dead, but that he was already passed away after the elevator already pinned him.
Why do you think it is that they don't want an autopsy to determine definitely what had happened?
To me, it sounds like it's a murder being covered up.
Yeah, it sounds like some kind of a cover-up because, in all actuality, you're just a hospital maintenance worker. What could you possibly know or have on a mining company? That's not even your area of expertise.
Even if that's what the reason for him being killed, if he was murdered, maybe
Money promised.
he could, been with somebody he shouldn't have been with.
Yeah, possibly a minor
stole
altercation.
from the mining company. There could be.
He knows something he's not supposed to.
There's many reasons that it could be, and him being a maintenance man and he would know how the elevator worked, and he would know how to do maintenance on it where he wouldn't put himself in a position to be harmed by the elevator.
Exactly. And with that being said, too, like, you have to manually operate that elevator. Unless you're becoming Reed Richards all of a sudden, I really doubt you're going to be able to pin your head down, stretch your arm a good 7-8 feet, turn it, get it to the wall, then push it down, and then slowly wait for it to descend on your body. So that's not adding up to me. But it's, food for thought, because nobody really knows if he really was murdered.
Or
What's the
suicide.
cause? Altercation, whatever. That's completely up in the air. But if it is a suicide,
That is
how?
a pretty unique
That's
way.
a unique way to do it.
Yeah.
Especially
Most people,
just the physicality of it all. Like,
there's a lot of easier ways of doing that. Committing suicide, maybe hanging yourself, with a gun, poison, but to put your head and wait for an elevator to come and smash it, that's pretty extreme.
see, now here's something interesting. It never completely crushed him. It's literally just has him pinned where his head is over the edge of the shaft, which is what
made it stop.
Exactly. That's where it just seems a little too elaborate and too deliberate. So that's the interesting part of it all. Now, some other interesting stuff is the basement where Mr. Harvey was actually killed, possibly his committed suicide. It's been converted into the laundry room. The staff at the hotel have said they've seen shadow figures rolling around there, possibly even heard his voice. They do frequently complain of the feeling of not being alone. No sense of dread or anything like that, just, they just get the
An
odd
uneasy feeling of not being alone.
Yes, definitely an uneasy feeling. But they don't feel threatened by it, which is pretty unique to say, it's an awkward feeling, but yet you don't feel threatened.
Well, it was his home for a very long time, so why would he want to harm the guests and stuff?
Spirits become territorial.
Exactly.
It becomes their new home, even if they had a home after or before they were, they passed away. They say normally it's where their life ends that becomes almost like a new homestead. Now, the second death that has been recorded since the hospital closed down was a Mr. Manoah Hopper. I think I said his name correctly. He was a local handyman hired by the Phelps Dodge Mining Company to be a caretaker in the building to make sure, it wasn't vandalized or damaged. One of the tours that a fellow officer or fellow security guard, whatever, went through to find Mr. Hoffner, they found him hanging from a steam pipe in the engineering room.
Ooh. Didn't they have 3 boilers originally?
Not sure. It doesn't say in my notes or anything that there was another boiler, but I do know that one of the boilers is still in the building. So that's interesting. And they still see shadow figures where Mr. Hopper, his body was. So, only other things I can give you are a few testimonials that some of the guests have left. These are interesting. So, I'm going to leave the guest name anonymous. I quote, "I stayed in room 32 in November of 2018. I was legit choked by a dark figure in the middle of the night. I could not move, nor could I breathe. I wasn't sleeping, and I wasn't having a bad dream. Legitimately, this was one of the most scary and terrifying encounters of my entire life. I also heard the sound of either a hospital cart or something with rusty wheels being pushed down the hallway, and we could see shadow figures or shadowy feet moving under the base of the door. As well as I had papers laying on the table in the room. I did not have the fan on, a window open, nor did I have the air on. The papers magically fluffed off of the table and down to the floor. It was absolutely terrifying. I will never be going back. Now, the second testimonial comes
You said
from,
that was in room 32?
Yeah, room
Which
32.
makes sense because that would be on the third floor. The third floor is the most active floor in the hotel.
Exactly. So.
Oh, yeah, it is. Right here, third floor. I just pulled up the layout of the building. Yeah, room 32 is on the third floor. I wonder what makes the third floor the most active. Could that have been maybe one of the
Wards
TB
of the hospital
wards?
or the
The
TB?
maternity ward?
It's possible. It could have been where they did the surgeries.
Gurneys going across the floor.
Makes sense, with it being the surgical room.
Mm-hmm.
So
Could have been the OR unit.
So it's a possibility of many reasons.
Awkward enough. Do you think it could have been the morgue?
No.
I would assume they would put those more towards the basement.
The morgue
'Cause
would
the
be
biggest
more
space.
towards the bottom, because then they can make it cold enough.
That's probably why the boiler room is the reason why what it is.
It was a basement before it was boiler room, so it could have been the morgue.
Yeah, because they didn't say. I do know from some of the notes that after the hospital was reconstructed into the hotel, it was made with a lot of its original material. A lot of the furniture has still been there, and they just basically recycled the furniture for some of the lobby area. So you leave stuff where death has occurred, you're just asking for spiritual turbulence.
And bringing that with you.
I give that a 9.9 on the Geiger meter. For all my Ghostbuster fans out there.
Who you gonna call?
Not the Grand Jerome. This place sounds scary, bro, and I mean, I don't
can't
fright
wait
easy.
to check it out. That is my thing, though. So
Here's another testimonial. This is from room 33. So this is literally just one room
Over.
If I'm looking at the layout, yeah, it's right behind. No. So it would be going down to the right, like near the farthest window, if I'm looking at this layout properly. So it says, my wife and I also stayed in room 33 on the same floor. My wife and I stayed, and she did not know that the hotel was haunted. Doors did open and close. I was tugged from behind. At around 2 a.m., I awoke to the sound of what sounded like a gunshot. This sound originated from the bathroom. My wife freaked out, and she wanted to leave. We originally booked the room for 3 nights. We made it one of the 3 nights that we planned to stay. When the morning came, she's like, honey, I need to leave. Like, we need to go.
Refund.
And he said, yeah, but I'm really ready to stay here. So we packed our bags and left the next morning. Yeah, she...
He didn't tell her it was haunted?
Nope.
Scandalous.
And they don't say if it was like an anniversary gift or just a spare of the moment type thing. Just
I
he
still
knew
would
the
tell my
hotel was
spouse.
haunted. She didn't.
Yeah, I still would
And
tell my spouse.
He just brought her on a whim, I'm assuming.
That's wrong.
In a lot of ways, that is very funny.
Yeah, that too.
I mean, hey, come on, man. We all wanted to scare somebody once in a while, but
Like a prank or something.
yeah, when you got imaginary gunshots going off in your bathroom, that's kind of scary.
My husband one time, you know those little poppets for 4th of July and all that? He put it all around the damn toilet. And I went to go sit down.
Terrifying.
Unexpected. That's what it is.
Well, I don't think that was very paranormal, but
no,
it was
but
more abnormal.
It was abnormal.
Still, probably gave you a pretty good fright.
Right, exactly.
So, in closing, the hotel is still in operations today. Due to the overwhelming amount of paranormal activity and all the frequent investigators, both professional and amateur, that come to the hotel frequently every year, they do not allow you to roam the guest floors at all anymore. So they want you to be as respectful of guests and people who are there to just, enjoy their time. At the front desk, there is 5 300-page books that the hotel has filled up since 1996 of nothing but testimonials and eyewitness accounts from guests and visitors.
I like to read that.
That is a lot. It says a lot for the paranormal activity at the
You figure 5 300-page books, and that's just since 1996. So since it reopened in 1996.
Pages of information.
Goodness gracious. So, to sum it up, is the Grand Jerome haunted? Who's to say, with all the levels of activity, the eyewitness accounts, I would say so. Skeptics would say it's all in our imaginations. But this historic landmark overlooks the valley. It's super beautiful. Great place to have a vacation.
And it's been known and marked as #1 Arizona's haunted places of the state.
Yeah, that too. And it's one of the, from what people say, it's a great hotel to stay at.
So you gotta experience it yourself.
Yep. Well, with that, folks, that concludes today's episode of the Terrorized podcast. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Give us your feedback. We'll be hoping you tune in for the next episode. It's a little raw, but we're gonna work on it. And /stab, beat up that like button, like and subscribe, share on all social media platforms. Pauline, you got anything left to say before closing out?
Nope, that concludes it for the Jerome Grand Hotel episode. You, Eric?
Just hope everybody enjoyed it. Hope you guys come back for the next one. Make sure you hit the notification so when we do post it, you get a notification to let you know to come on over and join us.
Alright. Stay creepy, my friends.
Yep, we don't always prefer spooky podcasts, but when we do, we prefer Terrorized. Stay spooky.